The night was a deep starless black, pressing down on the world. Jason stood alone in a sacred grove, the air thick with strange herbs and damp earth. He followed Meaty's instructions, every step a prayer, every movement part of the ritual. He had bathed in the cold river, donned a simple black tunic, and built a rough stone altar. Upon it, he placed dark honey, a lock of his golden hair, and a carved wooden bird, personal sacrifices for the gods. He began to chant the ancient words Mehdi had taught him, their power resonating in his bones. The air grew colder, a wind whispered through the trees, unnatural and chilling. The ritual was a promise, a deal made in the heart of the night. He knew magic had a price, but the golden fleece was his destiny. The darkness seemed to listen, the world holding its breath. The grove felt alive, as if ancient eyes watched from the blackness. The silence deepened, heavy with expectation. He was ready to face whatever answered from the dark. He stood, a lone figure, daring the old gods to respond. Jason's fate now hung on the will of the unseen. The pact was sealed in shadow. The silence after Jason's chant was absolute. The ground trembled, a deep, low hum rising through his feet. Shadows gathered, forming a mass of impenetrable black at the grove's center. A sickly green light glowed within, cold and dreadful. From the heart of that glow Hecate emerged, terrifying and beautiful, her eyes twin voids. Spectral hounds circled her, their eyes burning with silent fire. Jason fought the urge to flee, meeting the goddess's gaze. Hecate's thoughts pierced his mind. You are brave, mortal, or a fool, often the same. Her presence was crushing, ancient and cold. Spirits and snakes drifted in her wake, horrors from forgotten nightmares. Jason bowed his head in respect, letting his resolve speak for him. The goddess examined him, searching for weakness. He clung to thoughts of his quest and his companions, shielding his mind. At last Hecate seemed satisfied. A dark vial appeared in her hand. She offered it to him. "This will protect you from the fire," her voice echoed in his mind, "but your courage must be your own." As suddenly as she appeared, Hecate and her court vanished into the shadows. Jason stood alone, clutching the vial, the weight of the encounter heavy on his soul. The grove was silent once more. The pact had been accepted. The trial ahead would test more than his strength. Morning brought a bruised sky over Aia. The city gathered in silence at the Field of Mars, a place of sacrifice, not celebration. King Aietes watched from his throne, eager for Jason's failure. Jason entered the arena, feeling thousands of eyes on him. He ignored their doubt, focusing on the vial from Hecate. He anointed himself, shield and sword with the pungent ointment. A cool barrier spread over him, his true armor. Across the field, massive bronze gates concealed the monstrous Kalkatoroi. The crowd held its breath as the king signaled. A mournful horn sounded, the gates groaned open. A wave of heat swept out, forcing the front rows to recoil. 2 points of fiery light appeared in the darkness. The fire-breathing bulls of Colchis, forged of bronze and magic, stepped into the arena. Their rage was palpable, their power legendary. Jason stood ready, the trial about to begin. The world seemed to pause, waiting for the clash. Destiny called. The bulls emerged, magnificent and terrifying. Bronze bodies, silver horns, eyes of fire. They pawed the earth, sparks flying, a promise of destruction. Then fire erupted, searing white, roaring across the field. The ground turned black and glassy where it struck. Jason felt the heat, but Hecate's magic shielded him. King Aietes smiled, expecting Jason's end, but Jason stood firm, shield raised, as flames parted around him. The crowd gasped, certain he was dead, yet he was untouched. The bull's eyes flickered with confusion. Nothing had ever resisted their fire. Jason seized the moment. He let out a war cry, defiant and unbroken. Sword in hand, shield in the other, he charged the monsters. The arena fell silent, stunned by his audacity. Jason was no longer just a man, he was a hero challenging myth. He met raw power with unbreakable spirit. The bulls for the first time hesitated. Jason's courage became his greatest weapon. The crowd watched, breathless, as legend unfolded before them. The trial was not just survival, it was conquest. Jason's resolve blazed brighter than the bull's fire. The impossible was within reach. The first bull charged, a mountain of bronze fury. Jason dropped his sword and shield, remembering Mehdi's advice, use their strength against them. He lunged, grabbing the bull's horns, meeting its force head-on. The impact was immense, his muscles screaming, but Hecate's magic lent him strength. He held on, locked in a primal struggle, man against monster. Slowly, he forced the bull to its knees, its fire harmless at such close range. The crowd was stunned into silence. Jason turned to the second bull, which hesitated, wary after its brother's defeat. He charged, dodging fire, and repeated the feat, wrestling the beast to the ground. Exhausted but triumphant, Jason stood between the two defeated monsters. He had tamed the untamable. The arena was silent, disbelief and awe mingling in the air. Jason's victory was not just strength, but daring and resolve. He had conquered living legends. The impossible had become real. The crowd's shock was total. Jason's legend grew with every breath. The bulls, subdued, awaited his command. The king's trap had failed. Jason's spirit had prevailed. The field belonged to him. The next challenge awaited. The hero stood ready. The gods watched in silence. Taming the bulls was only the beginning. Jason yoked them to a heavy plow, their spirit broken. He drove them across the field of Mars, turning the cursed earth. Sweat and magic mingled on his skin as he worked relentlessly. With each furrow he sowed dragon's teeth, seeds of violence as Medi had warned. He was not planting grain, but an army. The king watched, his hope rekindled by the cruel challenge. When the last tooth was sown, Jason released the bulls. The field lay silent, freshly turned. Then, the earth stirred. From the furrows, skeletal hands emerged, clutching weapons, helmets, shoulders, entire bodies followed. An army of Spartoi, the sown men. They rose, fully armed, their empty eyes fixed on Jason. The crowd recoiled in horror. The king's final trap had sprung. Jason faced a new terror. One man against an army of the dead. The field became a battlefield once more. The true test had only just begun. The Spartoi advanced, hundreds strong, an army without fear or mercy. Jason could not fight them all. Brute strength would fail. But Medei's wisdom echoed in his mind. They share only rage, not brotherhood. As the skeletal warriors closed in, Jason produced a simple stone. He waited until they were nearly upon him, then hurled it into their midst. The stone landed with a dull thud. One Spartoi turned, accusing its neighbor. A silent argument erupted, confusion spreading like wildfire. The warriors turned on each other, swords flashing, bones shattering. The army destroyed itself in a frenzy of violence. Jason watched from a safe distance, heart pounding. Medei's plan had worked. His mind had triumphed where his sword could not. The field of Mars became a graveyard of shattered bones. The crowd was stunned by the spectacle. Jason had survived the king's deadliest trap. The impossible had been undone by cleverness. The king's fury grew. Jason's legend was sealed. The arena fell silent, awed by the hero's cunning. The gods themselves seemed to watch in approval. The path to the fleece was open, if only for a moment. Jason stood alone, victorious. The final challenge awaited. The Spartoi's battle ended in silence, the field littered with bones. The crowd, stunned, offered only scattered cheers. All eyes turned to King Aietes, his face pale with rage. His traps had failed, his power was humiliated. He saw not a hero, but an enemy. Jason's victory felt hollow under the king's venomous gaze. By law, the fleece should be his, but Jason saw only enmity in the king's eyes. The real threat was no longer monsters but a wounded monarch. Jason left the field, head high but wary. The city was tense, the quest unfinished. He had proven his strength and wit, but new dangers loomed. The king's anger was now his greatest foe. The path to the Golden Fleece was blocked by pride and vengeance. The day was won, but the war had just begun. Jason's journey was far from over. That night, Medi came to Jason, her face grim. "My father will never give you the fleece," she warned. "He plans to kill you and your men at dawn." Their victory was hollow. The king's treachery was clear. Medi revealed the fleece's true resting place, nailed to a sacred oak, guarded by a sleepless serpent. Another impossible task awaited. Jason, now a hero forged by gods and monsters, would not turn back. Together, they crept through the city to the grove of Ares. The golden fleece shone with an ethereal light, more beautiful than legend. At its base, the serpent coiled, immense and watchful. This was a battle of magic, not might. Medi stepped forward, chanting in the language of Hecate, sprinkling enchanted herbs. Her voice lulled the serpent, its eyes drooping, coils loosening. The great guardian succumbed to her spell, falling into a deep slumber. Jason climbed the tree, seized the fleece, and together they fled into the night. Their triumph was real, but now they were fugitives, The king's wrath and his army would soon follow. The quest was won, but the danger had only grown. Jason and Meaty vanished into the darkness carrying a stolen son. Their legend was just beginning.